Really very happy to be on my first visit to Kerala after taking over as External Affairs Minister. Of course, for last 2 years, it has not been easy to travel because of COVID. But I am here when we have also completed 8 years of the Modi government. So at this time, one of the purposes of travel is really to go across the country, visit different states, make assessments how much our programs and initiatives on national development have changed society, how much they have impacted. Also to make assessments, including from our colleagues who are doing work across the country. So for me, the time that I have spent with the team here, it has been something very useful. A large part of my programs for today, for next 2 days, is really to do this assessment, to see for myself what is working, how much is working, what is the public reaction to many of the changes which have taken place over the last 8 years. At the same time, there are also very big international changes that we have dealt with in the last 8 years. COVID itself was a very big challenge. It was a public health challenge at home, but almost 80 lakh Indians were abroad when COVID happened. To bring them back, to look after them, to take care of them abroad, this has been a very, very big challenge. Other issues have come up very recently. Some months ago, we had a very difficult situation in Ukraine. How to take care of our students, 20,000 students who were stuck there. That was an issue. And in some ways, even COVID itself was both, I would say, domestic. There were domestic aspects and international aspects. We have done a vaccination program, which I can tell you, when I go around the world, people actually are very impressed by the scale of our vaccination, by the speed of our vaccination, by the effect of our vaccination, that it has actually, the Made in India vaccines have proved to be so successful. Even the COVID platform, many of them admired, and it is very much a product of 8 years of application of technology that Prime Minister Modi himself has advocated. But there is also the vaccine Maitri, where we have given vaccines to so many countries, vaccines and medicines. Out of almost 200 countries in the world, 150 countries received either medicines or vaccine from us, and there is great acknowledgement, appreciation of that. Because I'm in Kerala, I also want to say a special word about the Gulf, because there is a very strong relationship which this state has with the Gulf. I think in the last 8 years, if I were to pick some of the key issues, key changes in our foreign policy, I would definitely pick the transformation in the relationship with the Gulf, probably as number one change in the last 8 years. This is a region which is so close to us, where so many of our people work, where there is so much investment, where there is so much trade, there is a big energy relationship. But yet, until Narendra Modi became Prime Minister, we actually neglected this region. We did not see political level visits. Whatever was going on was done at a very transactional level. And that is something which has fundamentally changed. Many of you would have seen even the pictures of Prime Minister stopping in visiting UAE very recently to pay his condolences at the passing away of the ruler. So it is for us a matter of great satisfaction. It's also been an area where both MOS Muralidharanji and I have really given it tremendous priority, great effort in the last 3 years. So overall, as I said, for me, that trip, it is myself, in a sense, I would say an awareness trip, an education trip, seeing a lot of things at the ground level, because this is very much a government which sends its ministers out to the ground to connect with the people, because it is a very people-centric government. So let me stop with those remarks, and I'm sure that there will be some issues which you might want to know a little bit more on. I will be very happy to respond. You know, the Sri Lankan crisis is obviously a very, very serious matter. And it's a very, very serious matter, not now, not this week, but it is something which has been building over a period of time. Now, Prime Minister Modi has a policy which you are all familiar with called Neighborhood First. Neighborhood First means that we make a special effort to try and support our neighbors in a manner in which obviously it also meets with their requirements. Now, in the case of Sri Lanka, we have given them a line of credit which has kept essential commodities flowing to them from India for the last many months. We also gave them a line of credit for the purchase of fuel. We have, because of the trade, they were not able to settle their trade payments for the last few months, in fact, from the beginning of this year. So, for this year alone, we have committed about $3.8 billion to them in terms of supporting them. We have been their biggest supporters, and it is one of the reasons why they have been able to prevent the situation from becoming worse. But right now they have to negotiate with the IMF. Those discussions are going on. So we have to see what happens. Clearly, many of the debts which they have, they will have to discuss with the lenders how to restructure them. But there is of course a bigger issue, which is really how do you manage your finances, you know, and how do you have a prudent fiscal policy. So in many ways there are issues relating to the management of the economy, but at the moment our focus is really on helping them. Not to my knowledge. I don't think. Occasionally some people have come, but I don't think it would be correct to call it a refugee issue. I think our expectation would be that if the world encouraged by India, and I would say in many ways led by India, is able to give the required support, I think we should deal with the problem there. So right now I don't think there is any justification for calling it as a refugee problem. I want to explain to you in a way the consolidated, the total outlook of the Modi government. At home, the Modi government is a government which promotes real growth, inclusive growth, fair growth, which ensures delivery on the ground. Now, the same mindset we also take abroad. So, just like if there are sections of society who are vulnerable, because you saw during COVID, for example, 100 years ago when there was Spanish flu, a lot of people, maybe more people died of hunger than they died of the flu. Now this time around, Prime Minister was very clear from day one. Every cabinet meeting he would say that no, you have to ensure that food must reach people, that there should be additional finance which reach people, and that has really what kept people going. Now the same mindset we are bringing to bear in international relations. There are many countries, for example, who could not afford to get vaccines, who could not get medicines. Today you spoke of our neighbors. Many of our neighbors are having problems. They are, having problems because of high fuel price, because of high food price. Some of them may not have, maybe some of their projects were not as good as they should be. But our attitude is that if somebody is your neighbor, if somebody is your friend, like we do at home, we will, with the best of our ability, try and help these partner countries as well. Look, for India, I assume you are asking for India. I myself was in Sri Lanka some months ago, and since then, of course, we have done a lot. My sense is people in India, in Sri Lanka, actually very greatly value what we have done. I mean, if you look at the newspapers, you follow the TV, I follow the social media. I think there are obviously very strong political debates going on in Sri Lanka. That is their politics, you know. But where India is concerned, I think whether across the political spectrum, I think there is appreciation for what India has done. Appreciation in Sri Lanka, but I must tell you, appreciation in the world also. That the world today sees India as a country which during COVID stepped forward, which when its citizens were in difficulty in Ukraine stepped forward, which when neighbor is in trouble steps forward, which in many other ways. It can be new trade agreements like we have done with UAE and Australia, that our standing in the world today is much higher. Our people are being treated better. I think particularly if you go to the Gulf, you can see the difference. Both of us travel to the Gulf very, very often, and we can see the change for ourselves. So I would say the goodwill that we have in the world is something that our citizens should know and should appreciate. Look, I would put it to you this way. Please also look at the last 2.5 years of challenges. What we went through with COVID, what others went through with COVID. Look at the experiences which societies have had and compare it with what we have had. And some of it, again, even the most committed government, even the most, I would say, effective government, even a government like the one led by Prime Minister Modi, they cannot change it overnight. So we have some real problems. They are trying to address those real problems. These are problems of actually more educational opportunities, more employment opportunities, support. There is a scheme today, for example, to support self-employed people. The support to small and medium enterprises has gone up. Today, it is not only we are making it easier to do business, we are making sure that our businesses employ more Indians. So there is a very, very employment-centric policy, a set of policies, which have actually taken place over the last 8 years, and I am very sure that would have its impact. I don't think that is a fair way of presenting it. I think we have to accept that in many ways it will take years to make up for the problems of the past. It was very interesting. Just 2 days ago, you actually had the Deputy Prime Minister, the Senior Minister of Singapore, who gave the Arun Jaitley Memorial Lecture. I would recommend you read the lecture, because he says there are a whole set of legacy problems that India did not address. And these are reasons why India has actually struggled economically. And today those problems are the very problems that are being addressed. So I think you should look really at the solutions also which government is putting on the table. And obviously it would also depend from state to state. Those states which are more effective at carrying out these programs, which work much more enthusiastically with the central government, which actually make it easier to do business, which are employment-centric where people are concerned, I think those states will show better results. Some states will, some states won't. I think the answers to Sri Lanka are in Sri Lanka. So at the moment, I think the focus is on helping the Sri Lankans along with IMF and other partner countries to see if they can deal with that situation.
So if there's a possibility of any kind of a political asylum which some of the leaders in Sri Lanka would need?
Look, I don't think we need to go out there. I don't think that is an issue. I think our focus today is on helping Sri Lankan society economically to recover.
Sir, obviously how difficult is it in the current times? Because it seems that you have to keep doing this very frequently.
No, I don't think so. I think The challenge would not be there if people in India, first of all, analyzed and projected it properly. If they obviously project it inaccurately and others abroad buy it, there will be reason for us to rebut it. So if people understand what we are doing properly, that itself is, a large part of the issue. And I think in many cases today, the world has come around to accepting. I mean, you look at the kind of pictures which were painted during COVID. Look at people who doubted our vaccination. I would say, look at even people who doubted our vaccines. And I'm sitting in Trivandrum and saying it. And you know why? So look at the people who doubted our vaccines, vaccination, people who doubted our economic recovery, people who doubted our economic governance, and look at the reality today. So look, there will be propaganda, there will be political attacks. It's a globalized world. In a globalized world, you do a political attack in India, it will also go abroad. So if somebody says something which is not true, which is inaccurate, which is a misunderstanding, I think we have the self-confidence today to correct the picture. And I think I can certainly tell you, as a foreign minister of a government which is led by Narendra Modi, we will not hesitate from voicing our view and defending our interests. We are very clear on that point. Again, you know the stand of the party on that issue. I don't think there was scope for misunderstanding. If you actually look at the statements which many governments, including in the Gulf, put out, many of them appreciated the clarification and the position of the party and the position of the government. And if you see after that, I mean, look, I deal with countries all over the world, and many of them are countries which are Islamic. I think most of them have